think most people are coming over from our welcome ceremony from Janos. So we'll give people just a few more moments and then we'll get started.
Sounds good. So there was another session before this one?
Yes, our welcome ceremony.
Nice.
Okay, it looks like we have critical mass here. So I think we're ready to get started. So hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Friedman, and I'm the director of the Symposium of Rising Scholars at Polygence. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker today, Kelvin Do. Kelvin's journey is one that defies convention and redefines what it means to innovate in the face of adversity. He's an incredible example of the impact that ambitious students can have on their communities and beyond. At 12 years old, Kelvin collected scrap metal from junkyards surrounding his home in Sierra Leone and built his own radio. He then took the project one step further and created his own radio station, broadcasting under the name of DJ Focus, becoming a bit of a local celebrity in Freetown, Sierra Leone. His story got picked up by the media and went viral. The YouTube video, which Kelvin will show you a snippet of, has been viewed over 17 million times. Driven by passion for tech, education, and community development, he founded the Kelvin Do Foundation, a federally registered not-for-profit organization with a mission to provide creative spaces to nurture communities, ignite a culture of innovation, and inspire civic engagement. Kelvin has been awarded several national and international awards for his work, including a Presidential Gold Medal in 2013, and the MTV EMA Generation Change Award in 2019. He is also the youngest ever participant in the Visiting Practitioners Program at MIT. We are so delighted to have Kelvin with us today to talk about the power of experimentation and the importance of thinking outside the box. Please join me in welcoming Kelvin Do. Kelvin, I'll now turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for the introduction. Before I start the talk, I would like to show the video just to provide some background information about my earlier work and also my journey from Freetown, Sierra Leone. So I'm just going to share my screen.
My name is Kelvin Do, aka DJ Focus. Alright. It's the youngest DJ Man Focus. I'm from Sierra Leone, and I love inventing.
Kelvin is extraordinarily talented. He literally goes to trash cans, finds broken electronic parts in the garbage, and makes stuff on his own.
He's taught himself how to do incredibly intricate things with very, very little resources.
In Sierra Leone, we have not too much electricity. Lights will come once in a week, and the rest of the month dark. So I made my own battery to power lights in people's houses.
Kelvin represents learn by making. He takes a part, looks at it, tries to reverse engineer it.
I made my own FM radio transmitter.
He made his own FM station because he wanted to give voice to the youth. He made his own generator because he needed it.
The generator supplies current to the radio station. This is the capacitor, and this is the spark plug.
This trip is his first time leaving his family's home. It's his first time leaving Sierra Leone, and it's tough, but it's an opportunity to create the future that he wants to live in. My name is David Moynihan Asenge. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab, where we have unlimited creative freedom. I wanted to ensure that young people like Kelvin also had this experience.
David has written visa letters, found places for Kelvin to stay. He's really got invested in him.
For quite many years, Sierra Leone and many other African countries receive aid, but it does not necessarily get us anywhere. We are not looking into the future. We are not designing our own future. Unless we have a host of young people who can think at any given point that here's a challenge, that here's a problem, but it's an opportunity to solve it, there won't be a steep growth in national development.
If we have a radio station in my community, the people can be able to debate about issues affecting our community and Sierra Leone as a whole.
I first met Kelvin at the Summer Innovation Camp that I run in Sierra Leone that challenges kids to think about the toughest problems in their community and have them solve it. Kelvin's team applied to build an FM radio station for community empowerment, and people listen religiously to his radio station. People text into his show and he reads the text from people. It's very inspirational.
I'm DJ Focus, right broadcasting all the way near Boston. People normally call me DJ Focus in my community because I believe if you focus, you can do invention perfectly. I DJ every day. Alright, for sure, for the meantime, don't forget DJ Man Focus passing through. Soundtrack done by Bobby. Upon Sierra Union artist. Your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed for your ultimate priority.
So Kelvin has been in the United States for the past 2 weeks. I lined up a pretty busy schedule for him. First, we went to New York. The next day, we were in Cambridge. Next week, we have a talk with the president of Harvard University.
It's a big opportunity for me to learn from people who have experience and to meet with them.
How do you want the antenna?
Like this.
Like that?
Yeah.
All right. Kelvin had these RF transmitters that he had made, and we spent yesterday kind of trying to figure out how we might be able to make some improvements. All right. Hopefully that's big enough.
Have you ever used a drill like that before?
No.
You be careful with it.
Yeah. We use this as the power cable.
Okay.
This was a microphone wire converted to a power output. I got the cable from the dustbin.
Let's give it some audio. Cool. We kind of get trapped in our own little worlds. And just as Kelvin's getting his world expanded by coming here, so am I getting my world expanded by interacting with him. Good work on you, dude.
Yeah.
He loves to work hard, but he's a kid. He's 15. After a while, he also just want to play ping pong. He also just want to play football. Oh, come on. I talked to him. I said, look, Kelvin, think of me as your older brother. All right, I'm tired. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's tough to you. It's his first time leaving Sierra Leone, so it's overwhelming.
It's just that I miss Sierra Leone.
In Sierra Leone, if you meet somebody head to head, you have to say hi. You acknowledge them and smile. Here, when he gets on the train, he says hi to people. Nobody recognizes it.
And also, I do love the food in America.
We're here to eat some Sierra Leonean food Kelvin loves, so it's gonna be awesome. What are you gonna get, Kelvin?
Cassava leaf.
Cassava leaves. Let's see if they have some. Come. How are you, Auntie?
No, but I get this today.
Oh.
I have beans, okra, cassava leaf.
Maybe.
Oh,
Thank you.
You want to try me plantain? Take. He misses home a lot.
I miss my family so much, especially my mother. Hello? Yeah? It's fine.
How are
My mother, she was so excited because people send good comments about me. Mama,
Hello?
I want to help my family to provide the facility for them.
Hello? Yes, Didi.
Just to help my family.
Okay, bye.
For Kelvin, his biggest challenge is going to be the scarcity of the materials and the information once he goes back. Here, he can go in and pick up a resistor or whatever he wants. He now understands that there are many people who don't have to go to the garbage, so he has to go back.
Whatever thing I've learned, yeah, I will share it with my friends, colleagues, loved ones, and do it as a team.
He's done an amazing work, but that's just the beginning.
My next invention will be a windmill for people to use for electricity supply.
I want there to be many more Kelvins. I do not want it to be a one-off thing. It's a movement. It's how do we create thousands of young people who are inspired by making stuff and solving the problems that are in their neighborhood.
That is my aim, to promote innovation in Sierra Leone among young people.
Hi everyone, this is David. Thanks so much for watching, and we hoped you enjoyed the video. The folks at Think and I wanted to share.
So that was the video from during my time at the MIT Media Lab. And the reason why I wanted to show the video is just so I could provide some context in terms of how far, I've come, my journey from Sierra Leone to the current position I now occupy. And so, when the folks at Polygence reached out and asked if I could do this, for me, I really felt like it was, an opportunity for me to not only connect with young people, but it's a way to encourage them to, pursue their goals and find opportunities in places that they may not necessarily think they could find those opportunities. So once again, I would like to, start by saying I'm very much grateful for the opportunity to give the keynote speech. It's not necessarily a speech per se, because I really do want to be able to connect with the audience. So I'm hoping there would be enough time for us to engage a bit more, because I find format like that more useful. And I'm just gonna briefly talk about some of the the stuff that I've been involved in, my story from Sierra Leone to coming to Canada. I'm joining this symposium from Canada. So again, I'm very much grateful for the opportunity. So today I am joining you guys not just as the keynote speaker, but as a storyteller ready to share my journey of curiosity, resilience, and unyielding passion for technology and innovation. A journey that began in a small neighborhood in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and led me to platforms such as this one and stages across the world. This is not just my story, as I always encourage young people, but this is a testament to what young people, including the many young people in the audience today, can achieve with persistence, experimentation, and learning by doing. My story started in a modest community in Freetown called Rozak Farm, where resources were scarce. But as my mother always believed, dreams were plentiful. So from a very young age, I was fascinated by the world of electronics. I remember vividly my first makeshift maker lab, which was in the family's living room, where I tinkered with the scattered pieces of broken electronics parts and tried to give them a second life. For me, this was more than just tinkering. It was my way of escaping the many constraints of my surrounding in Sierra Leone. And it was also a way for me escaping my many painful childhood memories and reaching for something greater. So in Sierra Leone, I grew up with my mother and 4 older siblings in the same household. And my father disappeared when I was only a baby, and life was really tough for my mother raising her children alone. And so oftentimes she would watch me, our youngest boy, and pray for my future. And growing up every evening, though I would go to bed early, in the middle of the night, I would get up to work on my engineering project. And day after day, I came home with more armfuls of scrap, electronics parts, and broken appliances that I had recovered from rubbish bins from across the ramshackle communities of Dozak Farm. Patiently and with absolute focus, I would take apart the electrical appliances and devices to try to understand how they worked. Sometimes I managed to repair them, and sometimes I reverse engineer them so that I could use them in other ways. Across Freetown, and especially in poor areas like Dozak Farm, people were often without radios. People were often without power to light their homes and run their radios. Everyone in my neighborhood loved to listen to the radio. In Sierra Leone, a radio is like the principal way that the local followed the news of Sierra Leone and around the world. But often they didn't have enough electric power and found themselves in darkness most nights. And this really made me curious to figure out a way to bring light into everyone's lives. By the time I was 11, I had already begun repairing my neighbor's radio at no cost. This sort of early interest soon evolved. I crafted a generator from scrap metals capable of producing up to 12 volts, and then repurposed salvage materials to assemble a 3-channel mixer, a sound amplifier, and a microphone receiver, all of which I would later use in the creation of my own musical set. And I would use the musical set to play, to host my own events and, do parties for some of the kids in the neighborhood. And in 2010, at the age of 14, I ventured further to design my own FM transmitter. These endeavors laid the foundation for launching my community's first local FM radio station, marking a significant milestone in my journey. Now, my love for tinkering was not just about fixing things. It was about understanding them. It was about uncovering the secret hidden in wires and circuits. The radio project, one of my initial undertakings, symbolized this philosophy, crafted from the scattered parts and fueled by sheer determination. This project was not just about broadcasting music, but more so it was a call to action to my community, a way of bringing us together and inspiring other people to look beyond our immediate limitations. In 2011, in Sierra Leone, I attended a high school summer camp called Innovate Salon for kids interested in technology. The camp was run by an organization called Global Minimum, which worked to help young Africans become innovators and leaders in their communities. At the time, my idea was to redesign the community radio station I had dreamt of along with a few of my friends, and our team was selected as one of the finalists for the Innovate Salon program. Now, broadcasting on the radio, as you guys noticed from the video, I call myself DJ Focus. So I played music share news and reach out to my community. And I chose the name DJ Focus because I believed that if you can focus, you can make an invention perfectly. And being focused, especially when the going gets tough, this has always been my gift. During the summer camp, my energy and focus caught the attention of the organizers of Innovate Salon, including David Sanger, who you saw in the video. At the time, he was working at the MIT Media Lab, and David was so impressed by my story and my work that he used his influence to ensure that I was selected to attend the Meet the World Maker panel at the World Maker Fair in New York in 2012, and then subsequently offered the chance to become the youngest visiting practitioner to ever participate in at the MIT media program, where I spent 3 weeks working with scientists in the labs at MIT and learning more about how to improve my innovations. During my time at MIT, the short documentary You Watch Aliyah was made and uploaded to the YouTube channel Thinker, and overnight I sort of became an internet sensation. And as Victoria mentioned, to date the video has been viewed more than 7 million views, I believe. And from the moment the video went viral, I received invitation to attend events all around the world, from New York to Abu Dhabi to Ghana, and the list goes on. And the former president of Sierra Leone and his Bakuruma was also impressed by my achievement, that he gave me the Presidential Gold Medal for my innovation. And at first, staying in hotels and traveling to give talks at different events was super fun, not gonna lie. But I wanted to learn, I wanted to still continue building stuff, developing my innovation. Despite all the fame and attention, one thing I can say is that my journey has never been easy. Especially early on, I faced skepticism, resource limitations, and countless failures. But yet, with each setback, my resolve only strengthened. I learned that innovation isn't just about success, it's about how we respond to failures. It's about persistence. It's about trying again and again until we find a way through. And so to the young people, especially young people in the audience, my message to you is pretty simple. Embrace your passion. No matter how unreachable they might seem, because the world needs you, the world needs your curiosity, the world needs your creativity, your innovation. So do not be afraid of failure. Instead, see failure as a stepping stone towards your goal. And also always remember, it's not about having the best resources, but it's about making the best of what you have. Because if, in my case, in Sierra Leone, oftentimes I tell people, we joke around and say, you know, if you could survive in Sierra Leone, if you could live in Sierra Leone, you could pretty much survive anywhere. So like, you know, when, you know, Sierra Leoneans go outside Sierra Leone to, you know, places like Canada or the US, we always like, you know, pride ourselves as resilient people. People always like finding ways to just make things happen. And so through all of this, you know, I decided that it would be best to also spread this sort of like culture of innovations amongst young people, not just in Sierra Leone, but across Canada and hopefully globally. And so I set up the Kelvin Foundation as a way to provide resources to young people who may not necessarily have those resources. And the foundation is about creating spaces where young minds can flourish, where, you know, they can experiment and learn in the same way I did. And so I believe that together we can build a community of innovators ready to tackle the challenges of tomorrow. And so in closing, I want to remind each and every one of you guys, like in the audience, that every great invention, every leap in technology started with an idea, a spark of curiosity. And one thing I would love for you guys to take away as you leave the symposium today. I genuinely would like to urge you to hold on to your dreams, persist in your experimentation, and most importantly, keep learning by doing. So that's just like a brief sort of, my talk. I don't know if Victoria is available for the interactive session.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Kelvin. That was so wonderful. And I'm sure so many people on this call can relate to failure and failure as a stepping stone. Many of the people on here have completed a Polygence project, and I'm sure experienced failure in that journey. So I'm going to moderate the Q&A now for Kelvin. If anyone in the audience has a question to ask him, please drop it in the Q&A and I will serve it to him for an answer. All right, so to get started, the first one actually has to do with failure. So someone said, "Hi, I have a question. How can I improve myself in education to have more opportunities in things that I'm passionate about? Also, what is one way you can get over the fear of failure?"
Nice. So, in my case, like just growing up in Sierra Leone, so in primary school, we usually like go outside, the community and find resources at the public library. Because I noticed even when I came to Canada, there's like lots of like spaces that you could go to find resources, but that's not the case in Sierra Leone. So I reached out to one of my teacher in primary school named Mr. Ali, who then became a mentor to me, providing guidance in terms of like areas to improve on, places that we could find resources. And if I have questions about an idea, it would always like provide those support for me. So I would say finding a mentor, it could be, a teacher, it could be, someone you follow on social media, and reach out to them and be open and ask questions. And for me, that was how I was able to find, those resources in Sierra Leone. And obviously, like, there's limitations to access to internet, to electricity. And so it was so difficult. But then when I came to Canada, I realized that it was a lot easier to find so many resources because I could just like email, professors, go online, find a public library and access those resources. So for sure, I would say finding a mentor. It could be your teacher, it could be someone, you sort of look up to in the community or even like a family member. So in my case also, I was raised by a single parent, and my mom, I always say my mom is like my best friend. And so she sort of like instilled in us like a culture of, like hard work and values. And so she, even though like my mom never finished high school, I always look up to my mom in terms of like ideas and like she always like provides supports. She's always like my support system. And so yeah, I would say finding people, could be like within your neighborhood, a teacher, or just someone, you sort of see on social media that you feel like has those values and qualities that you could access, basically.
Yeah, and for the students on the call, your Polygence mentor is a great person to reach out to as well. I love your point, Kelvin, about your primary school teacher, and I think that ties in nicely with our next question here. So Valerie asks, what was your formal schooling like growing up in Sierra Leone?
That's a good question. So I think they've changed the school structure now. So at the time, I did junior school, primary school, and then secondary school. So in primary school, that was when I started like working on, like in my innovations, and we started, just using paper to make like things like fighter jet and cameras. And when I finished primary six, we then applied for a sort of like an exhibition, and we were asked to design a system that could sort of like use some kind of mechanism to move from point A to point B. And my primary school teacher was also the lead on that project. And he provided, the support for us to like go to the competition. And then we ended up winning the competition. And he sort of like laid the foundation for me to when I moved to like junior school, to actually like take this whole thing seriously, because he sort of like instilled those values that we could, move along and build on the skills that we learned in primary school. So I would say, he's one of the many people that I'm so grateful to for, all the things I'm doing now. So I did 6 years of primary school, 3 years of junior school, and then 3 years of secondary school. And then we then had to like take the West Africa examination to then start post-secondary education, basically.
Got it. Okay. So kind of similar to how we think about education in the US. So great. And this is kind of a similar question around your background, but somebody asks, where did you learn your electronic skills when you were growing up in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, good question. Honestly, it was mostly just experimenting with different components. So kind of like an introvert, so I would spend most of my time indoor, in the living room of my family's house. So I sort of like build like a mini sort of library in the living room area, and I would then just like look at each component like a resistor and try to see if I could decode the resistor to my own understanding. And I would do the same for like voltage. And my uncle, who may his soul rest in peace, passed away a few years ago. He was also a mechanic, so sometimes I would go and ask him questions if I need clarification on a component I'm trying to learn about. And he was always like a support system. And then when I moved to junior school, we had like a sort of like a library where you could go look stuff online, and that later then sort of opened the many opportunities for me to apply to the competition that David organized. But yeah, so because access to like internet, electricity, it's a bit of a challenge. I relied mostly on just like learning on my own, trying and failing. Sometimes, I would test, test a voltage, get like 5 volts or 10 volts. And then I would say, okay, like if I'm able to get this, maybe I could do this. So it was just mostly like try and error. And then later I had mentors who were just like providing materials for me from overseas and other places.
A true tinkerer. We love that, Polygence. So a couple questions came in about what you're currently doing. So a few people ask, what projects are you currently working on?
Good question. Yeah, so at the moment, more focusing on the foundation now, but I'm also in school. And the whole idea of what we're trying to do with the foundation is to provide opportunities for other young people like myself in Sierra Leone and in other parts. So we're doing a series of like hands-on workshops, STEM related, and yeah, just like using my sort of platform to find resources. So whether it's like reaching out to people that I know, organizations that I've worked with, because I feel like sometimes it doesn't necessarily take away anything from me just by like contacting like a mentor or an organization and just say, hey, like, I had this video online, check it out. But we're doing this project. Is there a way you could support this project? And we did the same thing with MTV when we launched our DIY challenge in Sierra Leone, encouraging kids to, tinker and explore and find ideas outside their community. And so yeah, those are like the current project I'm working on, to build on the foundation, and we're also um, in the process of setting up a makerspace, which is one of the major project that we're working on at the moment.
That's wonderful. There are some questions around your future work, but I want to return for a second to when you left Sierra Leone. So we had one question from Emma that asks, what gave you the most culture shock on your first trip to the United States? And she said, thank you for sharing your amazing story. I'm in awe.
Thank you. The weather was the
The
weather was
weather.
yeah, weather was it was like a whole new thing for me. And then the food. Um, the food, even like, because now I live in Canada, the food is always a challenge. I mostly rely on fast food. But yeah, the weather and then the food, and I miss my mom because she's like my best friend.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so like just the culture in Sierra Leone is quite different. So every single time when I have the opportunity to go back, it's like you never want to leave because
It's
like
home.
yeah, it's like pretty much.
That's wonderful. So speaking of the food, we had somebody ask, what is the best Sierra Leonean food in New York City?
There was a Sierra Leonean restaurant we visited when I was in the States. I forgot the name, but my favorite food is actually it's called cassava leaves. You guys could look it up. It's like cassava, the leaves of the cassava, and then it's like rice and meat and like all mixed. Um, but yeah, there are a few. I think there are a few Sierra Leonean places in New York that makes like sell Sierra Leonean food.
Okay, great. Well, whoever asked, some research in cassava leaves is what you
Yeah.
should look for. And then once you got to Canada, we had somebody ask, what has been the most difficult hurdle to cross once you got to Canada?
Mm, that's a good question though. Um, I think just finding like a community of like like-minded individual people that think the same way. Like obviously it's a bit of a challenge, not like the exact same way, but just like finding communities. And because I was raised in a very sort of, you know, like a very like a different environment. Um, I'm always in my room and either working on electronics or looking up stuff online. Um, yeah, like seeing my mom is is always like also a bit of a challenge. But every single time I remind myself that what I'm doing now is for something that could potentially have like an impact on our beneficiaries.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, finding people that sort of think the same way, and it's a bit of a challenge because it's just like cultural differences. Sometimes before I say things, I like to like think before I say them, and so yeah, just some of those differences always a bit of a challenge for me. Um, and to this day, that's also a bit of a challenge.
I'm
But something
sure.
I'm working on, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure finding a community wherever you are is a challenge, but I can only imagine how difficult it is so far from home. This question may be somewhat related to community, but somebody asks, what was the hardest thing to navigate after you became well known and invited all over the world?
Hmm. Um, to be honest, like early on, I sort of like it was a bit of a distraction, I'm not gonna lie, because like the next day you were in South Africa, the next day you're in Ghana and like Israel, like Abu Dhabi, and so it got to a point, like the whole exposure thing was too much for me, and I realized that even though um, like all these different things add value to my work, and securing resources for like a long-term project, it was a bit of a challenge to navigate because like just imagine, especially in Sierra Leone, with the video, and every single time when I go, there's like people that want to interview and stuff like that. I don't see myself like the celebrity figure, so just like finding a way to just play things out and say, like, dude, someone asked, like, can we take a picture? Like, just don't know, just don't know how to respond sometimes, so I would say that's like, early on, that was like a huge challenge for me. But now I think knowing that it's important to like go out and like find resources, meet new people. I sort of like make time to do all these different things now, in a more sort of like structured way, supposed to just 5 years ago when it was like I was just all over the place and stuff. So yeah, just navigating fame is like yeah, it's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, and you were also incredibly young, which I can imagine was also very difficult and made it that much more distracting.
It was.
So somebody asks, speaking of distractions, there are so many distractions that we face every day. How do you keep focus?
Hmm. Good question. To be honest, I'm not gonna like tell you that I'm like the perfect guy. I don't make mistakes. I like don't like, make time, go on social media and things like that. I do those things sometimes, but I really prioritize like things that I need to do. If it's like schoolwork or if it's like family or like, project I'm working on. I always do prioritize those things because in the long term, those are the things that would, eventually get me to where I want to go, the position I want to be. So just prioritizing like the most important thing, like family, like school, like projects. I always prioritize those things, but then, you know, um, every now and then, maybe check social media. Um, but yeah, prioritizing the most important task. I know there's so much going on now around the world, and I just try to sort of prioritize.
Very important, especially with so many things you have to juggle in your life. Prioritization is so key. So thank you for sharing that. Somebody asks kind of similar to this advice. What is your advice to youth who have a desire to achieve goals but do not have the required support?
Hmm, that's a good question. What's the question again? My advice?
Yes, to students who want, or to youth who want to achieve goals but don't have the required support.
I would say start by maybe like start small, like listen down areas that you already know you're good at. So again, in my case, I always like just tell myself that I could do anything, to be honest. I don't know if it's maybe it was because of the way I was raised or like
It's a good
those,
mindset.
yeah, just like build like a positive mindset. And I was very young when I started like just doing stuff and like taking leadership position, applying for stuff, reaching out to people for advice. And I would say, yeah, like, start with like stuff that you're already good at or stuff that you know, and then find people that you could reach out to. So find mentors, ask questions. And we have so many like there's so much resources that we could, like access these days, without necessarily, you know, in my case, facing limitations. like access to internet and electricity. So yeah, like reach out to people, reach out to mentors, ask questions, always ask for clarification on things that you're not sure about, and take advantage of every opportunity you have, like every opportunity. I would say that would be my advice. Like I always like try as much as possible, always like reach out to mentors or find people that you could always like lean on. It could be the internet, it could be mentors, it could be, family member, or like finding people that you could reach out to and who could potentially help you in finding those resources you may need.
Yeah, mentors are so important. That's the basis of our program, so couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Another question around your projects and the type of work that you do. So somebody asks, have you ever programmed in any of your projects? And what is your opinion on the ethicality of AI?
Okay, so I honestly, it's like it's one area I'm currently exploring. I we do a lot of work with like Arduino. Like we do a lot, like most of our workshops with the Arduino platform. So we work with the IDE. I've worked on other side projects. I'm working on a migration project with a research lab in Canada, and I work with JavaScript. Um, AI, especially ChatGPT, sometimes it could be like a useful um, resource to, use to like seek concepts, like research concepts. Um, and yeah, I sometimes use it for like, if I need to do research on something that I need clarification on. I think it's a very useful like resources to utilize. Um, and there are a few projects we're working on. I'm working on a universal application portal for universities across the African continent. So we're trying to build like a one-stop application where a student can find resources to Ivy League institutions like MIT, Harvard, and all these different places. So I'm sort of like utilizing a lot of like sort of AI component into this project. So my sort of approach to tech and innovation, as long as there is some sort of understanding, like in the context of Sierra Leone now, it's still a new thing. People are not too familiar with the technology, so I would say utilize tools and resources that they're familiar with, as opposed to like forcing, like new technology on them that it may work in a place like Canada, but it may not necessarily work in a place like Sierra Leone because of, like limitations, like certain cultural differences and things like that. But overall, I do use AI, especially ChatGPT, for things like researching concepts and projects and stuff, things like that.
That's great. It's really interesting that you mentioned this kind of knowledge gap between Canada and Sierra Leone and AI and tech. Somebody asked a question that somewhat connects to that. So they say, hi, thanks so much for the talk. How do you view your future ideas and how you might connect back that to your childhood work in Sierra Leone?
Mm. I don't know. I don't know if this would be like what is it called? Um, I forgot the right word, but I always like just growing up in Sierra Leone, like I I sort of always imagine myself in leadership position, so that could be like a political something in politics. So maybe one day run for the president of Sierra Leone.
That'd be
Of
exciting.
yeah, so all the different things I'm working on now, I feel like it always like just tie back to just providing an enabling environment where people could, access resources. So building communities within communities, and using um, you know, my networks and relationships to provide those like opportunities for people, especially young people who may not necessarily have access to those. So, and one area I see myself doing that, just again because of the opportunity gap, I feel like it would make a massive impact in like a place like Sierra Leone. So, so yeah, like that's something I don't know if that might change, but that's something I hope to do or go into in the future, basically.
That would be wonderful. I think we'd all love to see you as the president of Sierra Leone. Say we saw you when. That would be great. So I want to do a quick time check. We have 3 minutes left before the end of our session. And so I'm going to do a rapid fire question and answer for you. We have a few questions left. So quickly, somebody asks, how have you maintained your childhood curiosity and passion in your work now as a professional?
Always just like experimenting, working on a Arduino project, work on something, always working on an electronics project, whether it's on a weekly basis, always just working.
That's a great way. Somebody else asks, do you think your natural talent made you who you are today, or is it more of hard work?
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure part of it is natural, and you've definitely worked hard. So. Somebody else asks, how did you balance your personal life and work life, especially at such a young age?
Prioritize. Prioritizing.
Yep, back to that one. Somebody else asks, how do you continue to motivate yourself through challenges?
Yeah, I think about my mom. I think about where I came from. I think about my childhood experiences, my friends. Yeah, just Sierra Leone keeps me grounded, especially my mom.
Speaking of Sierra Leone, Alex asks, in your opinion, what is the most important technology today to Sierra Leone?
There's a lot of like new, like there's a push to sort of digitalize science sectors. So I think that's like a new thing now, and I think the government is really sort of pushing for that. So, before to apply for things like passport, you need to go to Sierra Leone. Now you could apply online. So like the whole sort of idea of digitalizing the sector, I think it's one area. It's not like a sort of new technology, but that's one area that the government is really pushing for.
Would be hugely helpful, I can imagine. All right, so last question. Someone says, you are an inspiration, Kelvin. What do you think is your life's purpose, and what are your plans for the future?
Good question. I always like try as much as possible to be genuine to myself, to be kind, and to be honest, and to find ways to make a difference, whether it's just like, just be nice to people and be respectful. Those are things that I genuinely don't take for granted. All these other stuff like traveling and giving talks and meeting like cool people. It's fun, but I just try as much as possible to be just like a kind individual. That's something that just keeps me like, just makes me feel good about the way I sort of like see the world, and the way I think we all as human beings can coexist in the world. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, kindness is the best policy. Thank you so much, Kelvin. We are at time, so I just want to mention that this talk will be on our YouTube channel in the weeks following the symposium, when all of our other recordings are uploaded. So you can always refer back to it and see our conversation today. But thank you so much, Kelvin. You're an inspiration, and we are so happy that you joined us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.